I've done all of Brighton.
Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Boy Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. Hope you've been looking after yourselves, looking after each other, pulling your heads in and all that jazz. Welcome back for another episode. Here we are. We're going to get straight into it. Today, we are reviewing a horror sci-fi film called Demonic. A young woman must enter the mind of her criminal mother via a virtual simulation to discover why she has committed evil acts in the past in the most convoluted game of Sims ever. Will she get answers? Is there a reason for all the naughty behaviour? Well, strap yourself in for a slow ride in Demonic. That's right, the synopsis and rundown for Demonic, directed by Neil Blomkamp, who is one of the most original sci-fi storytellers of recent history. He has a very unique, dark style or sense of humour, if you will, that is rooted in some magnificent metaphors, heavy sci-fi, but that was all pre-pandemic. Here we get his first attempt at the horror genre, with a cast of no recognisable actors, but hey, that's a horror film, that's what's good about them. Get invested in the story and not the famous people in it. But our lead actor here is played by Carly Pope, who looks like a mixture of Noomi Rapace and Brittany Cummings. The film tackles a subject matter of entering someone's mind via simulation and trying to discover reasons for some unsavoury behaviour. We get a strained mother and daughter relationship, which is the emotional basis for our film. Mother Dearest did some naughty things back in the past with no explanation as to why, but a lot of people died. And her daughter wants nothing to do with her, but she may be her only hope, and has to hook herself up to a contraption and delve into the mind of her mother and discover some damn answers. The idea behind this film reminded me of the film The Cell, starring Jenny from the Block, which I think is one of the greatest horror/thriller sci-fis of all time. It's in my top 10 horror films. I think it's great. Go watch that film after this. When not Noomi Rapace enters the mind of her mother, we have some doctors who are watching via Zoom, which looks like the most spooky version of Sims I have ever seen. That's right. Everything in her mind, in the simulation, looks exactly like a game of Sims. Obviously, Neil Blomkamp has been playing a lot of video games in lockdown and thought, imagine if this simulation was actually someone's mind and everything you did in that world was their reality. Cool idea, awesome idea for a horror sci-fi film, but the film drops it rapidly, almost straight away, pretty bloody quickly. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but you've been warned. The reason the mother, obviously in her past, committed some murderous things and some naughty behaviour is because a demon possessed her. Because Mother Dearest was dilly-daddling around in a building that was on cursed ground. Because of course it was. Because land developers don't give a shit where they build their properties, especially if it's on cursed land, because they're more interested in profits. Let's see that on the next season of The Block, turning a haunted house shithole into a lovely 3-bedroom home. The demon then gets discovered and gets unsettled and goes full-blown Freddy Krueger on the daughter and her 2 friends. This film was filmed in lockdown, that's no secret right there, and it's quite obvious in not a good way because the world feels extremely small. We only get about 5 or 6 actors and maybe about 5 locations. Again, nothing wrong with that for a horror film, of course. 1 location with 2 actors is enough. It's awesome as long as the story is captivating enough. The premise for this story is, but the delivery, not so much. The acting felt very telly-movie, okay? It's the kind of thing you would find on a midday movie on free-to-air TV. A lot of sitting down, a lot of talking, obviously some social distancing, and the script felt very first draft. Of course, it's a possession film. We have to get the generic backwards crawl because every possession film has to have it. It's in the contract. Oh yes, I see that you can do a convincing backbend crawl there, demon old boy. Well, you've just made the shortlist for our possession team. This is Neil Blomkamp's attempt at bridging technology and spirituality, which again, for a sci-fi horror thriller, perfect concept, awesome. But it doesn't stay with that idea for very long, and it moves pretty briskly and going to other ideas that just pop up and go nowhere. It almost seems like the film was on a time limit. Another idea that pops up is priest marines. I shit you not. They're like a Black Ops team, covered in scars and tattoos and armed to the teeth, talking all badass, and they hunt down demons, but they're connected to the holy world. Unfortunately, they're not as cool as they sound, and as soon as they're introduced, they're fucking gone. We then find out the only way to kill this naughty demon is to stab it with this ancient holy knife, because MacGuffin, of course we have to. So, why all the guns again? What the fuck were those bullets gonna do? Don't think too hard about it. The film has already dropped it, you should too. A film solely dedicated to being a simulation in someone's mind, to rid them of a demonic possession, is a cool enough idea. That's awesome. That is such a cool concept, but it doesn't really stick with that. That's where the film starts, and then just throws it out the window and introduces all this other crap. Like, that's an awesome concept. Stick with it. The pace is also very slow in the film, which again, it's not a bad thing for horror films. I like films that unravel slowly, but then it just moves on. Doesn't stick with it. And there is no jump scares, though, I have to admit that, so yay! The movie barely even scratches the surface between the strained relationship between the mother and the daughter. That's the whole film right there, in my opinion. That's the emotional pull. Like a mother and daughter that are estranged from each other, and then the daughter has to be her savior and find out it's not necessarily all the mother's fault. It's demonic possession. Awesome! And then the mother and daughter thing, they only have maybe 2, maximum 3 really quick interactions, and then that's it. It drops it. Also, the emotional climax of the film was not earned in the slightest. It's like, oh, was I meant to care about that? Like, you seem like you care. I don't, because I don't know why I'm watching this. Also in the climax of the film, the movie goes full-blown generic monster slasher flick. The kind of run-of-the-mill stuff you'd see buried deep within the horror section of a streaming service. In all honesty, it doesn't feel like a Blomkamp film at all. He usually has lots of dark humor, a lot of grit, incredibly rich worlds with heaps of metaphors, and deep, deep sci-fi. So much sci-fi that it will make the nerdiest nerd feel insecure. But this film had none of that whatsoever. Again, it didn't feel like Blomkamp at all. Like, as I said, Neil Blomkamp is probably one of the most original and cutting-edge sci-fi writer-directors of our time. He's like the current-day Paul Verhoeven. I probably butchered Verhoeven's name. Verhoeven, whatever, but you know what I mean. The concept for this film, like I keep banging on about, is 10 out of 10. It's a great concept for a sci-fi horror thriller, but we get none of it. Like, a film solely based in the mind of a possessed mother and an estranged daughter has to go into her mind and save her and base it all in that simulation is fucking fantastic. But again, like I said, the film drops it before it even gets into it. Anyway, that's my review for Demonic. Yeah, it's not good. Like, I love this writer-director, he's awesome, and I know it was a lockdown film, obviously trying to get some form of content and creativity out of him while he's in lockdown, but maybe spend a bit more time on it. Like, it's so disappointing. Like, he's awesome, but this wasn't. Anyway, guys, that's my cheeky little review of Demonic. See it, don't see it, I don't give a shit. It's not great. Write down below what is your favourite sci-fi horror or your favourite Neil Blomkamp film. He's got a couple out there, a lot of short films. Write down below what your favourite one is. Also, give this episode a like if you could, because your love and support is very much appreciated. Because, we love film, and I'm guessing so do you. And if you could, don't forget to subscribe, because we give out episodes weekly. Become a spicy one, and we'll see you next week. And of course, as always, stay spooky, kids.